Hello, everybody. It's Christy Whitman with the Quantum Success Show, where you can get your information and inspiration to create your desires. And you can see I have a beautiful friend. I just absolutely love this woman. If you don't know who she is, she's JJ Virgin. I'm going to give everybody a little bit of background on JJ, and then go into what I know will be an amazing shift for many of you. So JJ Virgin is a celebrity nutrition and fitness expert, and she helps clients lose weight fast by breaking free from food intolerances and crush their sugar cravings. She is the author of 4 New York Times bestsellers: JJ Virgin's Sugar Impact Diet Cookbook, 150 low sugar recipes to help you lose up to 10 pounds in just 2 weeks; The Sugar Impact Diet, drop 7 hidden sugars, lose up to 10 pounds in just 2 weeks. There's a theme here. The Virgin Diet, drop 7 foods, lose 7 pounds in just 7 days. And we're talking fast stuff here. The Virgin Diet Cookbook, 150 easy and delicious recipes to lose weight and to feel better fast. And JJ is also a frequent blogger at Huffington Post, Mind Body Green. She's had her own PBS special. She is in Transformational Leadership Council with me, and I'm just grateful for that because we've had a chance to really connect. And she's been in tons of TVs, radios, magazines. And when JJ and I were connecting one day, we realized that we had something very similar in common. A lot of you know my story about Maxim and how, getting having to have him rushed to the hospital and being told that your 2-month-old son has to have open heart surgery. I had to go into what JJ talks about as the miracle mindset. And JJ and I have similar but very different stories. And so I wanted to talk with JJ about that and share the miracle mindset with all of you. So welcome, JJ.
Thank you.
I'm excited you're here.
So good to be here.
So you are taking a completely different, you went from all that you've ever known to now writing about the miracle mindset. So I'd love for you to share why all of a sudden.
Why? Are you crazy?
Why are you doing this?
So, it seems like it's a big shift, but the reality is, as you kind of mentioned, it actually isn't. And what was interesting was I queried my community earlier this year, and I said, what's the biggest thing getting in your way? If you aren't where you want to be in your health, what is it? What's getting in your way? And honestly, Christy, I expected them to say, oh, it's sugar, or it's cheese,
Yeah.
or I can't exercise, something like that. That wasn't what the answer was. The overruling answer was, I don't feel good enough. I don't feel worthy. So the answer was mindset. And, if you look at it in life, there's no shortage of strategies, whether it's about your health or your finances or your relationships or your career. There's no shortage of strategies out there. My gosh. But ultimately, you can't outgrow your mindset. And you look at our stories that are so similar, and where they're most similar is that we both realized quickly, and we'd been in training for it really, that it was our mindset that saved our sons. Yes. When people ask me, because I did all sorts of stuff behind the doctors' backs to help bring my son back, and fish oil and stem cells, all sorts of things. But people say, okay, well, what saved your son's life? Can you send me the protocol? Was it the fish oil? I go, ultimately, my son was the victim of a hit and run. As you know, he was left for dead in the street at 16 years old. He was airlifted to our local hospital. He had a torn aorta. It was literally an onion skin. They said it's going to rupture in the next 24 hours. He had multiple brain bleeds, and he had 13 fractures with bone sticking through his skin. When I looked at him, he was covered in road rash, glass sticking out of him, bone sticking out of him. I'm like, talk about the most horrifying thing you would ever see. And the doctor's telling us, we can't fix his aorta here because his brain will bleed out, so you're going to have to let him go. Nope. I mean, that's like Mama Bear says no, and no, we're not either. Because I'm going, they go, the chance he'd be able to survive the airlift to the hospital that could do this surgery that you need him to do is slim. And even if he survived, he's probably never going to survive the surgery. And even if he survived that surgery, he'll be so brain damaged, it wouldn't be worth it. And I'm listening, and my 15-year-old son said, so like a 0.25% chance. And the doctor said, that's right, son. He goes, we'll take those odds, right? And that was it. We were like, we're overruling you. And, you look at it and you go, there would have been two ways to look at that situation. 0.25% chance. You would have either thought that's hopeless, or to me, I was like 0.25%. That's all I need.
Yeah.
That's all I need. There's hope, right?
Yeah.
And so that mindset of anything is possible that I know we share, and I went, okay, 0.25. That's all. So I got it. That's all we need. Let's go. And that's what we looked at him and went, let's go. That's it. We're out of here.
It reminds me. It reminds me of that movie Dumb and Dumber, where he asks the girl, he's like, "So what chance do you think I have?" And she goes like 1 in 100 or 1 in 1,000. She goes like more than 1 in 1,000,000. He's like, "So you're saying there's a chance?" I love that. That's awesome. So, I mean, I connect with you in such this way because like the moment that they told me that, listen, you know, it's amazing your son is alive. They've never performed a surgery on a 2-month-old baby because normally the babies die within a week if they have this transposition of the great artery. I mean, we're totally at risk here. We've never done it. It was like, I immediately looked at Frederick and I went, he is coming home. I only see him coming home, playing with his brother, all of us in the same room, going to Disneyland, you know, doing the thing. There's no other, it's not even an option.
You can't even let your brain go there. And in the hospital, I made the decision the next day in the hospital, and believe me, I'm scared to death. I'm overruling the doctors going, what if we save him and he's a vegetable? What if, you know? So it wasn't like dun da da. I was like, I was charging forward and just kind of using the forward motion to keep fear behind me, you know?
Exactly.
But I was standing in the hospital looking at my son in a coma with all the tubes coming out. And I looked over at my ex-husband. Now, maybe you've had this feeling as a parent. I get a do-over. You know, do you ever feel like that as a parent? You know, could I have a do-over on that one? So I was kind of going, hey, we get a do-over here. So this is our second chance, and he's going to be 110%. He will be better than before the accident. Now, this was a ridiculous statement. There's no indication that he's even going to ever wake up. And in fact, the neurosurgeons were like, we don't know if he's ever going to wake up. As far as I was concerned, not only was he going to wake up, he was going to be better than before, and then he was going to go out and inspire millions on the same thing. That was my decision. That's just like you said, that's all I operated from. And little things would come up, and you just can't let them in.
Yes.
You know, it's like you see that little glimmer of hope, and it's like, grab on, and that was it. And anything else that would say to the opposite that would sneak in, because all of that self-talk sneaks in, but we can manage it. I was like, it's out. So everything was thinking about, like you talked about with your son, like what was his life going to look like? Where is he going to be? That was it.
Yes. So for you, in your own words, what exactly is the miracle mindset and why does it matter so much?
So after this whole thing goes down, of course, people are like, wait a minute. Because I also, during this whole time, I had a book coming out. I had the Virgin Diet was coming out, and I had invested everything I had in it. And I'm the financial support of my family, so all my money's invested in it, and I borrowed. You know, as we entrepreneurs like to do, hang on the cliff. And this is all coming out, and I have to make the book work. So now I have to pay for Grant, but I have to be there with Grant. Third leading cause of death is death by doctor.
Oh my
Biggest cause of death for kids, by the way, is a brain injury. Complications of that. So I'm like, I'm there. I'm not leaving there, but I also have to launch the book. And so people after the fact, they were like, okay, wait a minute. You know, what are you, Superwoman? And, you know, I looked and I went, well, thank God I was so healthy going in. But then I went, but that wasn't it. You know, it wasn't great health that allowed me to tell the doctors, we're not doing what you say. We're going to overrule you, which I did over and over and over again. That it wasn't, you know, health that said you're going to be 110%. It was all comes down to the thing that saved my son, and the differentiator was this mindset. And then I went, well, what is this mindset, right? Because we know the difference between that fixed victim mindset and the growth mindset that Dr. Carol Dweck talks about. But what specifically was it in here? Because here's why I wanted it out. If I figured it out, I could teach it. Right? Because if you know it, then you can share it.
Right.
So I didn't want to have this ambiguous like thing. So that's what I put together is I went, okay, there's characteristics that all these people, you have them, My son, who's never called himself a victim ever, he's only been a victor from this, has it. My other son, who stood up to the doctor saying, we'll take those odds, he has it. So what are those characteristics? And I looked through them and I went, resilience is a huge one. And by the way, the biggest way we can create resilience is through gratitude. So that's a massive one. Being courageous. Being courageous is very different than being fearless.
Yes.
Being courageous means there's fear there and you basically go charging towards it. So, and every time you do that, you become more courageous. And when you do that repeatedly, that creates resilience. So, being an action taker. I just got off the phone coaching a client and I'm like, didn't we talk about doing all of this 6 months ago? And you're still kind of like waffling over here. Like just deciding, even if you don't know what you should be doing, do something, take imperfect action. And that's how those signs will show along the way. I had a doctor tell me, we're just trying to get Grant to be able to walk again. And I went, walk? I go, what would you do if Kobe Bryant were lying in this bed? Do that for him. And I saw so many people along the way that were like, didn't want to create false hope. I don't care about false hope. I just need hope. To me, all hope is real, not false. And so I looked at that whole thing and I went, I'm not going to limit him one bit. He's going to be an athlete again. And so it's really the difference between someone who lives in that scarcity limited mindset or abundance. Look at how we live. We're like, well, this is how I'm envisioning his life. I'm already over there,
Yes.
And then one of the most powerful things that I did is I didn't save my son. My mindset saved my son. And my community saved my son, because the minute that I did this, I've sent out an email to everybody and I posted on Facebook and I said, listen, I'm not looking for pity. I'm looking for support. Send me what you got. Anything you know that can help here. And I just found out yesterday, I was doing an interview on Ayurvedic and I found out what the scrolls were that were sent to me that I didn't understand what they were, but I put them up. I had holy water. I had someone coming in with essential oils. We had acupressure. We just did it all. Like, come on in. We had everyone praying for us. Didn't care who they were, what religion. And then the final and key thing, what's interesting is Grant has never once been angry at this woman who hit him. Never. Never once was like, oh, boo-hoo, poor me. Never. I had to work through, while I wasn't angry at her, I had to still work through forgiveness. And so it's that attitude of forgiving and not looking. So many people, when this happened to me, said, well, aren't you going to go get that woman? I go, no, I'm going to go save my son.
Thank you.
I got only so much energy. It's getting directed here because what you focus on expands.
Well, I want to just say that because that's one of those things that we have in common that is so tied into this, because I remember sitting there after getting this diagnosis and sitting with my husband, and we had to call our parents and let them know what's going on. And both our dads, both his dad and my dad, were like, well, why didn't they find this sooner? And I was like,
doesn't matter.
you need to sue the doctor. And I'm like, no. So we made a decision that no other family members were going to even be in the intensive care with him. We made a decision that it was just the two of us and that only positive energy would be around, because I didn't want my dad or his dad looking over at him going, who the hell do we have to sue around here? It's like, it's all about energy and it's all what you focus on. And it was like, no, this is complete a miracle thing. This is just, he is going to be home with his brother playing. We're going to go to Disneyland and he's going to go to school. It's like we're talking to him about the possibilities of the things that he's going to enjoy in his life. There's no other stuff. And even, kind of pissed off some family members. It's like, no, you cannot go see him at the hospital.
I was the same with my mom, because my mom is doom and gloom. Doom, oh my gosh, and I was like, I waited to call her, and then she's like, call me every day. I'm like, I'm not going to do that, Mom.
Yeah. I can't.
I can't do it, because I was like, I cannot manage negative Nelly every day during this. I can't let any possibility, any negative possibility in. So I controlled them all out. I just stayed totally focused. And it was interesting because we didn't let those people come into the ICU either. And if a doctor starts saying something negative, I ushered them out and talked to them in the hallway. And Grant later, I knew he could hear me. I knew he knew what was going on. He even talked about going into the waiting room when he was in surgery. He describes where we were, what we were wearing.
Wow.
What we're doing. Yes, note to anyone listening. They know what's going on.
Wow.
So he came and checked things out there because he describes what John was wearing and what we were doing in the waiting room. I'm like, all right. And then, he says, Mom, the gray man asked me if I wanted to live or die, and I didn't want to live. But there you were sitting next to me talking, and I kept hearing your voice, so I told him I wanted to live. So, I was so careful not to let people come in there and say, he'll never talk. I was like, shh, out.
Exactly. You got to focus. I mean, it's such a severe case. It's like, it is the moment where we talk about law of attraction and focusing on your thoughts. But it's like when you're I can at least speak for myself. It was like, this is where the rubber meets the road. I mean, this is where it's like full on, no negativity, no,
right.
Talking of what you don't want or what you don't want to happen. It's what you want, why you want it, how you're going to feel, how they're going to feel, what it's going to look like, only good, love, miracle stuff around. So
and just think if we lived our life like that every day, because, this is an extreme case. All right. My son's case, your son's case, they're extreme, but the lessons that we took out of it, those mindset attributes that we looked at, those are universal. Like we all go through these little things every day, and we can look at it. One of my buddies, his mom early on, he's known as the 3-foot giant. His name's Sean Stevenson. You probably know him. Yeah. His mom early on, he's got this brittle bone disease. He, is in a wheelchair, and she goes, Sean, this can be a gift or a burden. Choose. And, you can look at every single thing. Like every day I walked into the hospital, something was going on, and, you could look at it as a win or a lose. Like they caught something that would have killed him, a pseudoaneurysm, and that could have been like the worst thing ever. I looked at it as the biggest win ever. I'm like, they caught it before it got him, So exactly. you can completely shape the direction of your life by how you think, as we know.
Absolutely.
Right? Like these things can be these little wins. They can be little miracles. You can see, for my son to be alive right now, it took a miracle after miracle, from everything from where he got hit on the street. And I look at the entire thing as one big miracle. People are like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm like, oh, this is like, are you kidding? Like, this was one miracle after the next. So I don't look at it as a negative. I look at this has been the most positive experience of my entire life. It's been the most challenging, but, people don't grow when things are easy, right?
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah, I had a great mentor early on who said, don't wish it was easier, make yourself stronger. And I kept just reminding myself of that. And if you look in life, every time we go through something difficult, we don't ever slide back. It becomes our new normal.
Yeah.
And so the more difficult things you go through, the easier it really becomes. Absolutely. For you to step up in such a bigger way in your life. And so that reframes us in how we look at things that might be conceived as hardships. They're really just tests. They're opportunities, and they do make you stronger, and you always come through them.
I totally agree. Let me ask you this, because you have a documentary that you have taken on from doing this. You're just amazing. You are a superwoman. So you have a free viewing of the documentary that you're going to give everybody. So I just wanted to welcome everybody to go under the video and click on the link, because it's called You're Stronger Than You Think. And so you don't have to be in a situation like JJ and I were, or certainly what JJ was, to understand and know the amazing power that you have, and that you really are stronger than you think. A lot of times it's our mindset that tells us we're not strong enough. And, I know you'll relate to this, but I was working out with my trainer when I was in Montreal, and he was having me push that sled. And I kept I could hear myself, feeling myself be so weak. It's like, I hate this. Oh my God, I hate this, And he's like, you're stronger than you think. And I was like, yeah. And it was like, all of a sudden I just got this like amazing strength that I could push it back and forth. And it was still taxing, but it was still like, I did that. And the more I could tell myself, physically, I'm strong. And it's the same thing as mentally. When you tell yourself I'm strong, that's what will show up. If you're like, oh, I'm weak, I can't do this, that's what's going to show up. That's how you're going to show up. So any last words? I want you to talk a little bit about the documentary, but anything else you want to share with everybody?
Yeah, the documentary. What's so interesting is I never set out to write this book. My gosh, I'm a health person, right? And the book almost wrote itself, and then I just had to go through this. And then same with the documentary. And I keep reliving this thing over and over and over again. Oh my gosh. I was like, as I'm taping this documentary, I go, what was I thinking? Like, it's like I keep getting to go through it over and over again. And same with the book. I had to just go read the book, right? To record the Kindle, the Audible. And I'm like, oh, but you read this, and honestly, it's so inspiring and motivating every single time I do it. And that's what I want people to get out of the documentary. It's just like, we have our stories, and stories can be so specific, but the truths that come out of them are always universal, and the lessons that come out of them are universal. And, think about what would happen in your life if you were stronger than you think, right? That these things because we all impose these false limitations. We all do it. And if you when I'm coaching someone, I say, okay, let's, like, if there were no limitations, and if you could have whatever you wanted, and then what? And that's really how we live. And so that's the question that I keep asking people now is what would you be doing if you were stronger than you think? And I'm like,
great question.
Be there then,
Great question.
And I'll share with you something super interesting, and it's made me really reframe the way, because I do this in coaching, but I hadn't done this necessarily with my kids. And I think as a parent, you kind of want to make things easier on your kids. You don't want them to have to go through the struggles you went through, and right?
Of course.
And then I went, well, there was a boo-boo. And so Grant's now coming out of this accident, severe brain injury, severe. Like he had to learn all over again. It was like raising a very large baby. He didn't know how to eat, how to talk. He didn't know who he was, where he was. A lot of times he didn't even know who I was. Crazy, crazy stuff. And along the way, I was coddling him and protecting him, as you would as a parent when you almost lose your child, right?
Yeah.
And I remember once he was going to cross the street, and I could see a car like way down, like way in the next city, He goes to cross the street, and I jump him. I jump on him, and he's like, "Mom!" I can see that car, and I'm like, and I just realized, you know what? I have been doing this the wrong way. I've been trying to make it easier on him, and that's not what he needs. And now, when he's struggling because there's so many things he's had to overcome with this brain injury, and I'm like, it's not going to be easier, Grant. It's not going to be easier. Don't wish it was easier. You make yourself stronger. It's hard. That makes it worth it. You step up to the challenge. He's like, total shift, right?
Beautiful.
Total shift. And so that's the thing. It's like, it's great it wasn't easier. It's great these things aren't easy. You know what? If everything's easy, you don't appreciate it. If there's Christmas every day, then who would care, right?
Right.
Like, the struggle is what makes us who we are. The struggle is what makes us appreciate everything in life. And the way you can overcome all that stuff is every morning wake up and be grateful. Just be grateful.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Tell everybody, like, how's his state now? Because he's obviously walking, talking. He's your normal boy, right?
Well, he is and he isn't. So my son had bipolar disorder before the accident. So I had a bipolar disorder plus TBI child coming out of this, which is a very, very risky thing. There's 17 million brain injuries in the United States a year. 17 million.
That's crazy.
And 5 million at any point just disabled. 25% of the people with a brain injury try to kill themselves, talk about killing themselves. So my son, over the last 4 years, has tried to kill himself 10 times.
Wow.
Thankfully, not seriously, because he was super serious. I keep saying, well, if he was really serious about it, he'd really pull it off, but I have to take it seriously. So we've had the paramedics, know where our house is. Him again, we take him to the hospital. He's had to relearn everything, how to talk, appointments. He'd say, Mom, can you make sure I get to my appointments? I go, no, you have to put them in your phone. He has to learn these things.
Right.
And I've operated this entire time with he's going to be 110%. Christy, there's been nothing indicating he's going to be 110%, right? Nothing indicating it, but that's my operating principle. I will tell you that in the last couple of weeks, I had the first adult conversation with my child. Now, remember, my child was 16 when he got hit. I've never had an adult conversation with him because he's had brain injury ever since. I had an actual conversation with him at a deep level the other day. And I went, I just talked to my my son. Like, I really talk to my son. We've been doing all sorts of things because, I'm determined to create the cure for brain injury. I'm like, then I do this, So I have been doing all sorts of stuff and tracking it. And he's now 110%. So now I'm going for 120.
Awesome.
But he has gotten to a point now where he is better than he was before the accident as a human being. He's empathetic. He's kind. He's got a purpose in life. He's now able to control his anger and his mood swings, because when you have a brain injury, you lose your filter. It's a very scary thing. So whatever, you can become violent, hypersexual. He was never that. He was violent and scary. But we got that. Now he's got that totally dialed. And he's just super smart. He put together his own Tesla coil setup with the brain mapping thing, and he uses Tesla coils to calm his brain. I have no idea. I'm like, what's that?
Wow.
How'd you come up with that? He's put together a whole hydroponic garden in the backyard. I don't know, but he's creating his life, and
that's amazing.
It's amazing to see. And he was so concerned for years coming out of this brain injury, and this is pretty telling, that he didn't know what his purpose was. And I'm thinking, what 17-year-old boy is remotely concerned about his purpose? Usually they're just concerned about girls,
Right.
And that was all he was concerned about. I've got to have a purpose. I have no purpose. Why am I here? And his purpose, I could see it, but he couldn't, and he's now really starting to see that he'll be able to help other people with this, that he can show people what's possible, and that we'll also have a, format for people to go through to be able to heal their brains. Yeah. But ultimately, whether it's, whether it's finding that relationship, having an amazing one, making money, having a career, it all comes down to that decision at first. For us, it was the decision he was going to be 110%. For you, it was the decision that your son was absolutely healthy and fine, and then you operate from that. Without that decision, none of these things matter, because you would never have gotten there, because he would have been dead on the table.
That's it. Yeah, it's a choice. It's a choice, and like you said, it's a resilience, and there's the courage. It's just all the things you talk about in your book. So, bravo, JJ. I'm really happy that, we connected in this way, and really happy that you're spreading this message, because people really, really need it right now. So, and I'm glad to hear that Grant's doing so much better. I'm glad that he's alive and that he is pondering the questions that a lot of people have. What's my purpose? And being able to live into that purpose. So Go check out the link below, everybody, and let us know, if you were asking yourself that question. It's a brilliant question that JJ asked. If you thought, I'm stronger than I think, what would you do today? If you knew and you started to think, I am stronger than I think, what would you take that's different from what you're doing? How would you be different? How would you show up different? What would that look like for you? And start working with that mantra, because that I am, when you invoke that I am, and then whatever you say after it is so powerful. So I am stronger than I think. What does that look like for you? So JJ, thank you so much. It's been great having you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for watching, and here is a related video to watch right now. Also, check out my free webinars on creating whatever you want in your life using the universal laws that I explain in each webinar. So share your thoughts by leaving a comment and continue the conversation at ChristyWhitman.com.